The arrival of Danger-Tar, the human ship, broke through the thin clouds of the alien world. Shaking as it entered the atmosphere, red lightning flashed across the sky, and the ground below looked sharp and broken like cracked glass. This planet was called Xylanheim by the Galactic Council, but most beings called it a death world. Only criminals, researchers, or desperate explorers ever came here. The human's name was Daniel Reeves, and he stood calmly inside the landing bay as alarms softly echoed. He was tall, slow-moving, and strangely relaxed for someone landing on one of the most dangerous planets known. Outside the ship, alien observers washed through screens, their eyes wide with concern. "Do not let the human exit the ship," one of them warned. "This world is home to Venom Gliders," another said with fear in its voice. "Even touching one means death." Daniel heard the warnings through his comm device and smiled slightly. Humans had heard warnings like this before. Fire worlds, ice worlds, acid oceans, and living storms had all tried to stop humans. None had succeeded for long. The ship landed with a heavy thud, sending dust and sharp sand into the air. The ground hissed as toxic mist rolled across the surface. Daniel stepped down the ramp, wearing only light armor and a breathing mask. The alien team watching from orbit gasped in shock. "Why, is he not using a shield unit?" one alien asked. "Is the human unaware?" Another whispered. Daniel's boots touched the ground, and he slowly looked around. The air smelled bitter and burned his lungs slightly. Strange clicking sounds echoed from the rocks nearby. Something was watching him. The Venom Gliders moved silently along the stone walls. They looked flat and thin, like living blades. Their skin shimmered with shifting colors, warning patterns meant to scare predators away. Each glider carried deadly venom strong enough to melt armor and bone. The council records were clear. Never touch a Venom Glider. Never approach a Venom Glider. Never survive a Venom Glider. Daniel noticed movement and stopped walking. A glider slid down a rock and hovered just above the ground. Its eyes were wide and black, reflecting his helmet lights. The alien observers began shouting in panic. "Human, step back now. It is too close. Your heart will stop in seconds." Daniel slowly knelt down instead. He tilted his head, studying the creature with calm interest. The glider tilted its head back, copying his movement. The watching aliens fell silent. "This is impossible," one whispered. "The glider is not attacking." Daniel reached into his suit pouch and pulled out a small metal tool. He tapped it gently against the stone floor. The sound echoed softly. The glider responded by gliding in a small circle. Curious, rather than angry, Daniel laughed quietly. "So you like noise," he said to himself. More movement appeared around him. 2, then 3, then 5. Venom Gliders emerged from the shadows. They surrounded him in a loose circle. Their colors shifted faster now, not aggressive, but alert, high above. The alien council members argued in fear. Some demanded an emergency extraction. Others believed the human was already dead and simply had not fallen yet. Daniel slowly stood up and removed one glove. The sensor screamed warnings in his helmet. His bare hand reached forward, steady and calm. Every alien watching held their breath. The closest Venom Glider moved closer, its body glowing brighter. Its deadly skin hovered inches from human flesh. The warnings echoed again in every alien mind. Never touch a Venom Glider. Daniel's fingers moved forward anyway, and the Venom Glider did not pull away. The first touch the moment Daniel's fingers made contact. The alien observers screamed in horror. They were certain they were watching a human die in real time. Venom Glider's skin was known to dissolve flesh. On contact, no species had ever survived this moment, but nothing happened. Daniel felt a strange warmth, not pain, spread across his fingertips. The glider did not attack or recoil. Instead, its colors slowed and softened into calm patterns. "This cannot be real," one alien scientist whispered. "The venom should have activated instantly." Daniel slowly pulled his hand back and flexed his fingers. His skin was red, but unharmed. He looked at the glider with surprise and interest. "Well, that's new," he said quietly. The glider hovered closer, moving with smooth and careful motions. Its eyes never left Daniel's face. It made a low humming sound, almost like vibration through the air. Daniel felt it more than heard it around them. The other gliders adjusted their positions. They were no longer surrounding him like prey. They stood like curious watchers, studying every small movement he made. High above, Alarms rang inside the alien command station. Medical teams prepared for an emergency that never came. Defense officers argued about using force, but no one dared fire with Daniel surrounded by the creatures. The venom is not reacting, an analyst said. His biology is interfering with it. Daniel took a slow step forward. The gliders moved back slightly, not in fear, but in balance. Like dancers matching a rhythm, the ground beneath them vibrated faintly. Daniel tapped the metal tool again. The sound echoed across the rocks. One glider responded by changing color rapidly. Another glided in a spiral pattern. They are responding to stimuli. An alien scientist said, "They are learning." Daniel crouched and placed the tool on the ground. He slowly pushed it toward the closest glider. The creature nudged it back using the edge of its body. Daniel smiled inside his helmet. "Smart," he said. Suddenly, the ground trembled harder. A deep rumble echoed from beneath the surface. Dust fell from the rocks above. The gliders froze. Mid-air, their colors shifted sharply into warning patterns. Bright flashes of danger pulsed across their skin. Daniel felt the change instantly. Something was wrong. "What is happening?" Daniel asked. "Overcomes." Before anyone could answer, the ground split open nearby. A massive shadow moved beneath the surface, far larger than any Venom Glider. The alien command erupted into chaos. Subterranean predator detected. Human, retreat immediately. The gliders reacted first. They moved fast, forming a tight cluster around Daniel. Their bodies glowed bright and intense, not attacking him, but shielding him. Daniel stood still, heart pounding. The ground burst open in front of them. A massive armored creature rose from the depths, its mouth lined with crushing plates. Daniel realized the truth too late. The Venom Gliders were not the deadliest thing on this planet. They were prey. The gliders pulsed with light and sound, a warning signal meant for their own kind. Daniel felt the vibration travel through his bones. The massive creature turned its attention toward the glowing cluster. It roared, shaking the air. Daniel tightened his fists. Surrounded by creatures everyone feared, and for the first time, they were protecting him. The deadly game, the massive subterranean creature, slammed into the ground with a deafening impact. Rocks and dust exploded around Daniel, blinding him for a moment. The Venom Gliders darted around him like living shields, their colors flashing bright warnings and strange patterns. Daniel stumbled but kept his balance. He realized quickly that running blindly would mean death. The creature was too fast, too strong. Even the human's strongest armor would crumble under its jaws. The gliders began moving in coordinated patterns. One cut off the creature's path. Another distracted it. Daniel watched, amazed. The creatures were not just intelligent, they were strategists. He dropped the metal tool and picked up a small flare gun from his belt. Pointing it toward the rock walls, he fired a flare high into the air. The light reflected off the walls and scattered. The creature paused, momentarily confused by the sudden glow. Daniel took advantage of the moment. He ran across the broken terrain. The gliders followed, circling him to block any attack. Their movements were graceful, almost like a deadly dance. The alien command in orbit shouted in disbelief. "They are saving him. No species has ever been saved by Venom Gliders." Daniel ducked as a falling rock narrowly missed him. The flare in his hand illuminated more gliders emerging from the shadows. Each one moved with purpose. The creature growled and lunged toward him, smashing a rock with its massive claws. Daniel rolled to the side, narrowly escaping. He grabbed a nearby shard of metal from the ground. It was jagged, but could be used as a weapon or tool. He raised it slowly, keeping his eyes on both the massive creature and the gliders. The ground trembled again. More creatures stirred beneath the surface. Daniel's heart raced. He realized that every step he took was being watched, analyzed, and anticipated. The gliders pulsed bright colors again. Daniel understood their message. Move here, step there, survive. He followed instinct and the silent guidance of the glowing gliders. Every movement was precise. Every step could mean life or death. The massive predator roared, smashing the ground behind him. Daniel reached a narrow canyon. He looked down and saw sharp spires of rock below, jagged enough to pierce armor. The creature was behind him, blocking any retreat. His only chance was to continue forward. The gliders hovered around him, their small bodies flashing signals. Daniel nodded to them, silently trusting them. He ran across a narrow ledge, arms outstretched for balance. The creature lunged, missing him by inches. The canyon walls echoed with its roars. Dust filled the air, stinging his eyes. Daniel's legs ached, but adrenaline pushed him forward. The gliders matched his pace, guiding and protecting. Suddenly, one glider darted ahead, tapping a rock with its sharp edge. Daniel looked down and saw a hidden crevice opening in the wall. It was barely large enough to crawl through, but it offered safety from the massive predator. He scrambled toward it, dropping the flare gun and metal shard. The gliders circled, protecting the entrance. The predator slammed the canyon floor behind him, roaring in frustration. Daniel barely made it inside, gasping for breath. Inside the crevice, it was dark and tight. Daniel pressed himself against the wall, heart hammering. The gliders settled around the entrance, forming a protective barrier. They pulsed gently, almost reassuring him. Daniel realized something astonishing. The creatures everyone feared were now allies. They were playing a deadly game, and he was learning their rules. Outside, the massive predator paced, but he could not reach him. Daniel's mind raced with questions. Why were the gliders protecting him? And what was the purpose of this deadly game? He knew only one thing for certain. Surviving Xyla 9 would not be about strength or weapons. It would be about understanding, patience, and trust. And the Venom Gliders had just made that clear. Survival and strategy. Daniel stayed in the narrow crevice, catching his breath. The predator roared outside, shaking loose rocks from the canyon walls. The sound echoed like thunder, but the gliders remained calm. They glowed softly, keeping watch over him. He realized the predator would not leave until it found a way in. There was no time to rest. Daniel had to move, but every step could mean death. He studied the walls and floor carefully, searching for a safe path. The gliders hovered closer, their bodies pulsing with patterns. Daniel slowly extended a hand. They brushed against his fingers, as if telling him which direction to go. He nodded silently, understanding their guidance. A narrow ledge appeared along the crevice wall. Daniel stepped onto it cautiously, feeling the rough stone under his boots. The predator tried to follow, smashing the canyon floor below. Dust and debris rained down, but the ledge held. The gliders flew ahead, signaling left and right. Daniel followed each motion carefully. They led him past unstable rocks, sharp spires, and hidden pits. Every movement required focus and balance. At one point, a boulder fell from above. Daniel jumped just in time. The predator growled and slammed its massive claws into the wall. The sound vibrated through the ledge, almost knocking him off. The gliders darted back and forth, creating a living barrier between him and danger. Daniel realized he could no longer rely on weapons alone. Strategy, speed, and understanding. The gliders were his only hope. He noticed a faint glow coming from deeper in the crevice. The gliders hovered toward it, moving quickly. Daniel followed, stepping carefully over broken rocks and jagged edges. The glow grew brighter, illuminating strange alien markings on the walls. "What is this place?" Daniel whispered. The markings seemed to pulse with energy, almost alive. The gliders circled the glowing symbols, their colors shifting in response. Daniel felt a strange warmth in his chest, a mix of fear and curiosity. Suddenly, a section of the wall shifted, revealing a hidden tunnel. Daniel looked at the gliders, and they pulsed brightly. It was clear this tunnel was the only safe path. He entered slowly, keeping low and moving carefully. Inside, the air was cooler, and the ground firm. Daniel could hear faint echoes of movement from the predator behind him. The gliders spread out, scanning the tunnel walls. They seemed to communicate silently, their pulses and movements guiding him. At one point, a small drop of toxic liquid fell from the ceiling. Daniel dodged it just in time. The predator was too large to follow him here. For the first time, he felt a small measure of relief. He crouched near a glowing crystal embedded in the tunnel wall. The gliders hovered close, pulsing a soft, reassuring light. Daniel studied them carefully. They were not just protecting him, they were teaching him. Every step forward became a lesson. He learned where to move, when to pause, and how to read the subtle signals of the gliders. The predator's roars grew fainter. It could not reach him here. Daniel smiled faintly under his helmet. Survival was no longer just about strength. It was about partnership, observation, and trust. The gliders had become more than allies. They were guides. As he moved deeper into the tunnel, he felt a sense of purpose and control returning. The deadly game of Xyla 9 was far from over. But for the first time, he felt he had a chance to win. The shadows of the tunnel shifted, and Daniel realized the world around him was alive. Every rock, every pulse of the gliders, every sound carried a warning or guidance. To survive, he would have to become part of the rhythm and understand the rules of this deadly planet. Understanding the enemy, Daniel moved deeper into the glowing tunnel. The air smelled sharp and metallic. The walls pulsed faintly as if alive. The gliders hovered around him, guiding each step with careful precision. He noticed patterns in their movements. Every pulse, every shift in color seemed to signal something. Left meant danger, right meant safety. A quick pulse meant pause. A slow pulse meant go. Daniel began mimicking their gestures. He extended a hand, then he tilted his head, and the cliff's glider copied him. Slowly, a silent conversation formed. He realized the creatures were intelligent, far beyond what anyone expected. High above, the alien observers argued. Impossible, one said. Humans cannot communicate with Venom Gliders, but Daniel was proving them wrong. He was learning the language of survival. The massive predator roared somewhere behind the tunnel. Its footsteps shook the ground, but Daniel stayed calm. He followed the glider's guidance, stepping carefully over sharp rocks and fissures. Every movement was deliberate, every choice critical. A narrow chamber opened ahead, glowing with bioluminescent crystals. The gliders moved toward the center and pulsed rapidly. Daniel approached slowly. He could see that the crystals formed a strange pattern, almost like a map. He crouched and studied it. The gliders hovered over the symbols, their colors brightening and fading. Daniel realized the map showed paths across the planet, safe routes, danger zones, and hidden hazards. The gliders were not just protecting him, they were teaching him to navigate Narration. A sudden vibration shook the chamber. Daniel froze, listening. Carefully, a low growl echoed from the tunnel behind him. The predator was close, but the gliders were ready. They formed a shield, pulsing bright light that seemed to confuse the massive creature. Daniel remembered a tip from old survival training. Use the environment, not just your own strength. He carefully rolled a crystal fragment toward the tunnel entrance. The reflection created blinding flashes, and the predator hissed, retreating temporarily. The gliders pulsed brighter as if congratulating him. Daniel smiled beneath his helmet. He was beginning to understand their rules. This was not just survival, it was a partnership, a test. The Venom Gliders were testing him, learning from him, and teaching him in return. Suddenly, the glowing crystals formed a pattern that pointed toward a hidden exit. Daniel's heart raced. It was a possible escape route. The gliders hovered along the path, pulsing in encouragement. Daniel knew he had to follow it, but one wrong step could end everything. He moved carefully, reading the signals from the gliders. The tunnel narrowed, forcing him to crouch and crawl. Each pulse and color change guided him over obstacles and away from hazards. The predator roared once more, frustrated, but could not reach him. As he emerged into a wider cavern, Daniel realized the gliders had led him to something incredible. In the center of the cavern lay a hidden alien artifact, glowing with a soft blue light. The artifact hummed, resonating with the energy of the gliders. Daniel knelt beside it, feeling the power and knowledge radiate. The gliders pulsed in approval. He understood finally. With this world, the Venom Gliders, even the massive predator all, were part of a balance, a system of survival, intelligence, and guidance. For the first time, Daniel felt a real connection. He was not alone. He was not just surviving, he was learning, and the planet of Xylanine was teaching him the rules of its deadly game. He took a deep breath and whispered to himself, I think I finally understand. The gliders pulsed around him, steady and bright, and for the first time, Daniel knew he had a chance to master the world. The predator growled in the distance, but Daniel's mind was focused, calm, and alert. The game was far from over, but he was no longer just a player. He was a participant in a battle of wits, intelligence, and survival, and the Venom Gliders, or his teachers. The final twist. Daniel stood in the glowing cavern, staring at the alien artifact. Its soft blue light reflected off the walls, illuminating the Venom Gliders hovering around him. He could feel their intelligence radiating through the room. It was as if they were aware of every thought, every movement, every intention. The predator's roars echoed from far above, but the gliders formed a protective circle, pulsating brighter than ever. Daniel realized something astonishing. These creatures were not mindless killers, they were guardians, testers, keepers of balance on this planet. He reached out and touched the artifact. A hum resonated through his body. Images flashed in his mind. The history of the gliders, the Redditor, and the planet itself. He saw how humans had been warned for a reason, not just for danger, but for a test of intelligence, courage, and adaptability. The gliders shifted around him, their colors calming. Daniel smiled beneath his helmet, understanding the truth. They were not enemies. They were mentors. They had been guiding him, teaching him to survive, think, and act. Suddenly, the Predator app,